Hi folks, we are of course headed to the Aries full moon on Monday at 8:47 p.m. And with normal full moons that are not eclipses, I tend to say it's about a 72-hour period when that is most felt. So starting Saturday evening, 8:47 p.m., if we want to be kind of picky about this and meticulous about this, all the way to Tuesday, 8:47. So 48 hours before, 24 hours after. But it really varies. I know that when we had a few full moons about 3 or 4 months ago, I think it was like the Scorpio full moon and the Sag full moon. I really, I think we all kind of commented and felt that we felt them for about 4 days prior to about 48 hours after, irrespective. Within about 24 hours of me kind of posting this video, I think we should be in the sway, under the influence of the full moon. Now, it is not an eclipse, and the last of the eclipse-related aspects really, I think, got done yesterday, unless I'm mistaken, or today, when Venus conjuncted the South Node. I'll give you the exact date for that, but I covered that in my last video. And I want to give it 2 or 3 more days before I post another video, which is going to be, at least as of right now, I'm thinking a brief video of me processing September's eclipse season and where we're at with that. I don't want to make the messaging in this video, which is about the full moon, kind of muddy around that. But know that energetically, when you have as intense a period as we had in September, and you're getting back into the normal flow of new moons and full moons. And this was part of the reason why I did a video a couple of months ago, I think, about kind of taking an eagle eye view of the second half of 2025. And I think I called it something like that. So you can search for it with eagle eye view or something like that. I talked about the fact that we were heading out of a Mercury retrograde right into the eclipses, had a break in October, headed right into another Mercury retrograde. And while December is technically a break, at the end of December, we have the week before and after January the 3rd, which is going to have strong sort of eclipsy resonances as well. So, and not to say, for me, one of the most important things going on is Saturn's transit through Pisces now between Saturn's transit through Pisces between September 1st of this year and the middle of February of next year, when Saturn is back in Pisces, finishing up a transit. And especially with Saturn finishing up a transit, it can, as always, Saturn is a planet with a mission, and that mission can become intensified. So it's an intense second half of the year, full of a forward-looking set of vistas that were shown to us between May of this year and September 1st of this year, I would say. And then from September 1st to the middle of February, with a very deep desire to clean things up from the past that need to be sorted out so that we can move forward towards those vistas with less baggage, with fewer energy leaks after the middle of February. Sorry, I'm opening up this list so that I can tell you, yep, Venus conjuncted the South Node today on October the 3rd. So for all intents and purposes, the eclipsy aspects, etc., are now done. Okay, so full moon. Expect, this first point I'm going to make is one I make in all my full moon videos, so let me just make it for the sake of thoroughness and completion in case this is someone's first video, but it's always worth repeating. You have to repeat it, and we'll be done with it in a couple of minutes, and we'll get to the heart of this particular video, this particular full moon. Expect intensity to increase, emotional intensity, intuitive intensity, overwhelm. As I like to say, the pot of milk comes to a boil, or the wave crashes to the shore. So in the most common way that this tends to manifest is a really busy and hectic to-do list sometimes. This has to get done, this has to get done, this has to get done, this email dropped in, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And part of what makes heading to a full moon unruly and problematic is while the energy is there to be productive, some of this mounting intensity takes away from our productivity because a lot of time can be spent fretting or stressing or becoming irritable. And an Aries full moon is a notoriously irritable full moon. The sun is in Libra, famously discontent in Libra. The moon is in Aries, famously discontent in Aries. So both the planets that are involved in this full moon are in signs where they're not exactly comfortable, and I'll talk about why in a second. So there's the potential for a certain amount of mounting irritability, pressure, stress, temper flare-ups. The one thing I will say about full moons is that if there is an intuitive or an emotional flare-up, it is absolutely worth paying attention to, because very often there are emotional and intuitive truths that are being repressed either by you or someone else that come to the fore. Now, if this is something that is happening for you, as always with full moons, and especially a full moon in Aries, a sign ruled by Mars, and as always with the influence of the planet Mars, assertive, not aggressive, if you need to be. But I would at least pay attention to what is coming up emotionally, to acknowledge it, so that even if you determine or decide that you're not going to take any action on it, and you're not going to throw the proverbial full moon tantrum, that you are at least paying attention to what it is that is coming up and erupting or emerging. If you're on the receiving end of someone's emotions or tears, full moons can be famously fluidic tears. Sometimes for people who have nosebleeds and things like, there can be a higher occurrence of things like that. Let me just bring this back to what I was saying without getting sidetracked. The important thing is that to recognize, if you're on the receiving end or you're observing someone having a full moon moment, what it is that their sort of emotional truth or feelings are about something that they might have been suppressing out of the sake of politeness or being a good person or trying to fit in. Full moons can bring visibility. That's a positive. Full moons can bring things to completion. They can give results. They can give positive results. They can bring offers. They can bring conclusions, completions. So all of that is in the picture in and of itself. And now I start to get into the actual details around this full moon. The sun is at 14 degrees of Libra. The moon is at 14 degrees of Aries. And this full moon, from my perspective, is unaspected. Chiron is also in Aries, but at 25 degrees. And for me, that 9-degree separation is far enough. At the end of the day, Chiron, and I have brought this up recently, is trying to put us in situations where we can heal some part of ourselves related to the house occupied by the sign of Aries in your chart, where you may have somehow become disempowered in your childhood or teenage years through conditioning or some traumatic event. And with Chiron, matters related to self-empowerment, self-confidence, dealing with things from a more healed place as opposed to a reactive place, having pieced together what happened and who you really are in a more complete sense and how to embody that can be at work. So for the sake of thoroughness, it could be that something comes up with this full moon related to the house occupied by Aries in your chart that contributes to that Chiron healing journey. And with Chiron, the healing is rarely pretty. As I've said to you before, in order to heal something, you need to be able to feel it, see it, examine it. And that means that very often with Chiron, you are put in situations that open you up to wounded feelings and pain and hurt and trigger you. But Chiron is assuming that you are now older and might have the capacity to examine that pain and examine that reactivity, and examine the programming, and examine the disempowerment, and then try to heal it or move towards healing it. You're not going to, you can't heal something without your physical body or your mental body or your emotional body signaling that you are in pain or discomfort. And with Chiron, you tend to have experiences that put you in that discomfort or that pain again. But the idea is that you are that much more evolved or have that many more years under your belt now that you can start to examine and heal yourself through that process. So there is that. For me, let's just talk about the sun being in Libra and the moon in Aries. At the end of the day, Libra is a notoriously indirect sign. It is a diplomatic sign. It is a relationship building sign. It's a velvet glove sign. It is a sign that favors harmony, politeness, a pleasant tone, pleasant interactions. And of course, Libra is also a sign that is notoriously the criticism to everything that I said, because it all sounds wonderful and lovely, is that the sign of Libra is accused of disingenuousness or being fake in some way, or not being so disturbed by other people's high emotional displays that the focus can unfairly be on tone and harmony and not on examining what is being expressed. The sign of Libra views always being harmonious and relationship oriented and getting your point across kindly and diplomatically, even if it is an opposing point of view, as a priority. And sometimes when someone is angry about something or disturbed about something or revealing an emotional truth, Libra being an air sign, of course. So when someone reacts to things in a fire sign way, to some extent a water sign way when it is more emotionally expressed, the sign of Libra may view that demonstration as disruptive or immature. And rather than focusing on the content of what is being expressed, focuses on the manner. And people who are dealing with other people with strong Libra placements may sometimes feel like, I'm talking to you and it's all very simpatico, but I just don't know how genuine you are, right? The sun is a direct, uncomplicated planet that is connected directly to our solar plexus, that is connected directly to our source. My experience of the sun, some people will say, well, the sun stands for us and the sun stands for our ego. That has never been my experience in all the charts I've read and all the work that I have done astrologically. The sun is a kind of a connection to our higher self, our solar self. It's like this giant spotlight. And it's a spotlight wherever it goes, whichever house it is in, that the light is so bright that it exposes every nook and cranny, every dust bunny, everything is seen. So it allows for a certain evaluation. And with the sun favors directness. So the diplomacy and the kindness and the indirectness associated with Libra makes the sun technically uncomfortable. The moon, on the other hand, would love, because the moon is concerned with our emotional life, our emotional well-being. The moon favors placidness, kindness, sweetness, peace, contentment. The moon loves the sign of Libra because the moon's point is, well, if you're going to give me feedback, then give it to me in a Libran way. If you're going to talk to me, then talk to me softly. Talk to me kindly. And Aries, as a sign, is famously direct, famously assertive, to the point of being uncaring and totally self-serving. And so the moon in the sign of Aries tends to be agitated. The one thing that I will say about people who have an Aries moon, for example, or is that they are, I think, famously and effectively good at, if they can channel the irritation that they feel with what is not working, they can be very good at quickly identifying what is not working and move to fix it. What happens with someone with a strong Aries moon, or with an Aries moon in general, is that the people around them can find their dissatisfaction and their discontentment with the status quo really exhausting. It's like waking up with someone every morning who's constantly fixated on, we need to fix this, and we need to fix this, and we need to do this, and we need to do this. And of course, they may be right. And I think there's something to be said for that unsettled quality, but it can be exhausting and draining, not only to them, but also to those around them. So, with all of that said, I personally find that the planets' placements in the signs is less relevant than the planets' placements in the houses. But because we're talking about a full moon that is notoriously agitated, I thought I would drop that in there. I truly don't know. I mean, it's here for you. I truly don't know, certainly in comparison to September. I can feel now the energetic shift to a certain amount of normalcy. And I'm hoping that October will continue to bring that to us as we move forward with where we've ended up at the end of eclipse season. As I said, I will do a video in about 3 or 4 days about processing September eclipses. With this full moon, the thing that I most want to convey to you is, because it is unaspected, because it is not making any aspects to currently other transiting planets, what this full moon is about is really going to be dependent on what natal chart placements it is aspecting in your chart. So if you look at your birth chart, it tells you where the planets were at the time, location, and date of your birth. And this full moon at 14 degrees of Aries, from a Western tropical sign perspective, which is what I use, what natal chart planets is it aspecting? Squaring, trining, opposing, conjuncting, and that might give you a clear line of sight as to what this full moon is really about. Now, it is a full moon, it is not an eclipse. It comes up, it's part of an annual cycle, and by that I mean we're going to have one full moon in Aries every year, sometimes, rarely two, but very rarely. But that's the way it is. And so it's really a question of it around this time for those of you who are really looking at this full moon chart for some reason. That's the thing to pay attention to. For me, interpretively, what, of course, coming out of 2 consecutive new moons has done, the new moon in Virgo on August 22nd and the new moon solar eclipse in Virgo on September the 21st, is that it has reversed the order of new moons and full moons and new moons that are related to each other. Till September the 21st, we had a new moon first, and 2 weeks later we had the corresponding full moon in the opposite sign, or the opposite house. Now we're in a cycle until this reverses or goes back to the other way of being, which it will eventually. This is kind of a handoff that happens all the time. We have the full moon first. So we have the full moon in Aries on October the 6th, and then we have the corresponding new moon, excuse me, then we have the corresponding new moon on we have the full moon in Aries on October the 6th, and then we have the corresponding new moon in Libra on October the 21st. Now, hear me out. For those of you who've been watching this video, to say, what is at the heart of this video? When we think about this Aries full moon, what should we be thinking about? This is what I want you to think about. Mars transited the Libra part of the chart between August 6th and September 22nd. Mars, assertive energy, pursuing goals, setting boundaries, can bring up, first and foremost, Mars gives you a lot of power to take action and to address things wherever he is. He can also bring up conflict. So depending on the house occupied by Libra in your chart, with Mars there from August 6th to September the 22nd, Mars is agitated quality. I'm trying to do this. This is who's in my way. This is what's going on. I need to address this. This is driving me crazy. Mars is not a passive planet. Mars will try and address things. And pursuit of goals, action, being busy, taking action in the Libra part of the chart, but also dealing with a certain amount of conflict and competition. Those are the two biggest things we see when it comes to Mars. Now, there can be things like injuries or surgeries or incisions or bleeding or cuts or bruises, or depending on who is sitting in the Libra part of the chart for you. Dear subscriber or viewer, Mars's transit can also indicate for them a potential surgery or incision, or the accidents and things like that. But irrespective, Mars went through the Libra part of the chart August 6th to September 22nd. Mercury was the next planet to enter Libra on September the 18th. And Mercury is going to leave Libra before the full moon on October the 6th. So Mercury, the planet of communication, the planet of using communication to try and resolve things, to bring things up, to address things, to process things, to make sense of things, to deal with things on a factual level or a communication level, in Libra from September 18th to October the 6th. And Mercury leaves Libra, and the full moon occurs in Aries with the sun. So when Mercury leaves Libra, he leaves behind the sun. The sun entered Libra on the 22nd of September and will be in Libra till the 23rd of October. So the sun is in Libra, has made it halfway into Libra till about 14 degrees. Mercury and Mars have made their way into Scorpio, and the full moon occurs in Aries. Wherever the sun goes, he spotlights matters. It's an annual review of the house occupied by Libra. What's working, what's not working, where are the dust bunnies, where are the problems. Internal assessment, internal assessment, internal assessment. What's interesting is that this internal assessment is happening after Mars and Mercury have made their way through Libra. So some of that Mars pursuing goals, dealing with conflict energy, and some of that communication energy are on their way out. Mercury's still in Libra till Monday, till the 6th. But some of that energy is getting ready to make its way out. And then Venus does not come into Libra till October the 13th. And Venus will be in Libra till November the 6th. So till October the 13th, between October the 6th and 13th, the only planet that is in Libra is the sun. Mars moves through Libra, Mercury is moving through Libra. Still in Libra. On Monday, Mercury leaves Libra and the full moon happens. In the meantime, we've had half of the sun's transit through the Libra part of the chart. The sun trying to make sense of what, after Mars has kind of pursued certain goals, after Mercury has uncommunicated, what is going on here? What am I observing? The sun's transit is a much more intuitive, truthful, uncorrupted by emotions and thinking, uncorrupted by the moon and Mercury. It's a very plain, intuitive, higher self-seeing. And the purpose of the sun's annual review in any part of the chart is to make way for the new moon that is going to occur on October the 21st in Libra. And the reason why the sun's transit is making way for this October 21st new moon is that whatever it is that the sun is assessing, it is assessing also where would you like things to be in the Libra part of the chart. Where are you at against where you would like to be, and what action needs to be taken to bring the house occupied by Libra into alignment with what you value and what you want to have in place. And then the new moon occurs on the 21st, opening up a 4-week window where you get to take action and plant seeds. And the nature of the action with new moons is planting seeds, knocking on doors, responding to opportunities that the universe brings you. And at present, with Mars having made its way through Libra, Mercury having made its way to Libra, by the time you get to that new moon, the sun will all have made its way to Libra. You'll have had the full moon in Aries on Monday, and I'm going to come to that in a second. And Venus will be in Libra, helping to bring opportunities and resolutions. If you look at the Libra part of the chart, it is probably at this point in time in a kind of an unsettled, with everything thrown up into the air quality. What is going on, intuitively sensing things, some communication around it, action taken, goals pursued, boundaries set, things being expressed, a sense of where am I at against where I want to be. And then after Mercury leaves and Mars has left, the next thing that happens on October the 6th, while the sun, of course, is in Libra doing his annual assessment, is that you have this full moon in Aries. And something comes... Sorry, I'd set an alarm, and I'm going to edit the two videos together. Something comes up in the opposite part of the chart, the house occupied by Aries, that presents something to you. A realization. Why does a full moon occur? You have a new moon, and then 2 weeks later, you have a full moon. Theoretically, the idea is that when the full moon is happening, in the house where the sun is, opposite where the full moon is happening, there's a lot of annual activity. Mercury, Venus, the sun, a new moon, maybe Mars if he's close by. And as all this energy is being poured into what is right now the Libra part of the chart, the opposite part of the chart, Aries, asserts itself to say, there's something here that needs to be integrated. Opposite houses are like a yin-yang symbol in one circle. You cannot think about one house while ignoring the house opposite it. If the first house stands for you, the 7th house stands for the people who are dealing with you in a serious contractual way. Your business partners, your personal partners, your family members where finances are involved. If the second half has to do with your financial independence and your income and your emotional independence, the 8th house has to do with your codependence, what it is actually like to be in partnership with others. If the 3rd house stands for your immediate environment, your immediate community, your neighborhood, your locality, the people you're seeing on a day-to-day basis, even online, the 9th house has to do with your connection to spirit and a higher macro level of a sense of purpose, unsullied by the day-to-day mundane interactions, which are very, very important, but keeping a sense of compass so that you are not led astray by day-to-day interactions. So the 4th house is the most private part of the chart, the foundation, home, land, residence. The 10th house is the most public part of the chart, being out and about, career, reputation. 5th house, your individual joy, your individual passion, your individual gifts, your individual love of things. The 11th house, your sense of social responsibility and your participation with groups and friends and ensembles. The 6th house, your day-to-day activities, your productivity, your job, your chores, the 12th house, the least busy part of the chart, your connection to spirit, you're putting your feet up. You can't focus on one house without taking the opposing principle. Opposites, hot does not exist without cold, and how hot it is expressed in terms of how cold it isn't, right? So these opposing principles actually define each other and are in constant conversation with each other. So when you have that full moon, it is drawing attention to something in the Aries part of the chart, the house occupied by Aries in part of your chart, that says, while you are doing all this work, dear client, in the Libra part of the chart, the annual pursuing goals and communicating and assessing and where we at, where would I like to be. The new moon is coming up on the 21st of October, and another 4 weeks then of taking action and planting seeds to bring the Libra part of the chart into alignment. This full moon acts as a bit of a compass and says, I have something to contribute. Some matter or matters related to the Aries part of the chart want to have a seat at the table. It's a little bit like when I'm focused so much on my goals, my personal or business partners may feel like they need to assert themselves to say, it's fine, you can pursue your goals, but remember, I need this as well. This needs to be done as well. And there's greater harmony and greater effectiveness in integrating those. So the full moon in Aries not only brings visibility temporarily to something emotional or intuitive, or maybe even visibility, maybe even something positive in the Aries part of the chart, depending on how the full moon is aspecting planets and placements in your natal chart, in such a way that it contributes to this discussion and this parade of planets that has so far been going through Libra. Mars, Mercury, the Sun, and then Venus comes in on October the 13th. And then the new moon happens on October the 21st. So Libra season for me continues all the way to November 19th when the Scorpio new moon happens. And so till November the 19th, you will be planting seeds. Venus is only going to be in Libra from October 13th until November the 6th. And she is going to try and bring some peace, some resolution, some harmony. If you're knocking on 15 doors, she'll open 3 for you so you can take the next step in those directions. Relationship building. Venus rules Libra. She's happy in Libra. Relationship building, financial building. One of the things with all this activity in the Libra part of the chart, as I said, is that things may feel like everything is thrown up in the air, but there's not much resolution. What has it all been about? What is all the Mars pursuing goals and the Mercury communication and the Sun? Venus is going to come in and the new moon will occur where they're going to bring some focus at the end of all these. And the full moon in Aries happens on Monday. And Venus's entry into Libra on October the 13th and then the new moon on October the 21st are what will try to give meaning and closure and integration to Mars's transit through Libra, Mercury's transit through Libra, the full moon on Monday in Aries, the opposite chart, the opposite house, the Sun's assessment through Libra. So you're not done with Libra seasons. The seasons in each house now are very extended because Mercury and Mars are entering first, and then the Sun is entering, and the new moons are happening at the very end of the Sun's transit. So we're having these long focuses, 2-3 months worth of focus in each part of this chart, of your chart, while all these planets go through. And now we're going to start to have the full moons in the opposite part of the chart first, 2 weeks before the new moon occurs, as if to say, before we head to the new moon in Libra, while you're setting your agenda of what it is that you're going to be accomplishing after that new moon in Libra happens, and you're actually going to be taking action to bring the Libra part of the chart into alignment, and will have Venus's help in doing so after October 13th and with the new moon in Libra on October 21st, The full moon's happening 2 weeks before will add something to the mix that you need to factor in to help determine what the agenda is going to be for the 4 weeks after the new moon in the Libra part of the chart, when the portal for taking aligned action actually occurs. There could also be something that comes up at around the time of the full moon that you act on or find that is moving forward in some way after the new moon. Just pay attention to this dynamic. Just see how the sequence works for you now as we talk about the Libra part of the chart and the Scorpio part of the chart and the Sag part of the chart. And the full moons happen 2 weeks before the new moons in this part of the chart and the opposite parts of the chart. Aries, Taurus, Gemini. And of course, I'm going to be giving you that information as well. Okay? There is a certain amount of agitation, Jupiter squaring Chiron, Mercury squaring Pluto around the time of this full moon. The Mercury square... But Jupiter's also, the Jupiter trine Saturn is not exact this year, but it's within 10 minutes of each other, not even within a degree. Jupiter's ending a 12-13 year cycle, beginning a 12-13 year cycle in the house occupied by Cancer in your chart, and is starting to become pretty stationary because he goes retrograde on November the 11th. He's trining Saturn in Pisces, lovely. Squaring Chiron in Aries, there's that Chiron again. Mercury, as he enters Scorpio, but even from Libra, is squaring Pluto. There may be, from a communication perspective and from whatever it is that Jupiter is doing, I would just say that both from the Libra and the Scorpio part of the chart, if you feel that something needs to be communicated in such a way that it helps Pluto transform the Aquarius part of the chart, and particularly loosen bonds and attachments in the Aquarius part of the chart that Pluto is currently focused on, so that he can transform the Aquarius part of the chart all the way for you till 2042, then see if the need to communicate or participate in some communication comes up, and then do it in a conscious manner in such a way that it might help or contribute to Pluto making this transformation in the Aquarius part of the chart. It was it with the full moon a month ago? Here it is. No, the Virgo solar eclipse on September the 21st. Mars squared Pluto. Mars enters Scorpio to square Pluto. And now Mercury squares Pluto. From the Scorpio part of the chart, but maybe at the very end of Libra too, some communication may occur, may come to you, may need to occur, that contributes to Pluto making this transformation of the Aquarius part of the chart for your highest benefit. And as I've explained, when Pluto is going through the first few degrees of any sign as he is right now, he's more focused on loosening what is holding you back from this transformation. And there may be a link to whatever occurred between January 20th and February 20th of 2024 with what is being loosened in the Aquarius part of the chart. With Jupiter squaring Chiron and trining Saturn, the trine to Saturn not being exact, and then Jupiter going retrograde, and then the Jupiter-Saturn trines really being exact when Jupiter enters Leo and Saturn is in Aries. This is going to have to be, I can't interpret this for you. You've got to interpret this for yourself in your chart. Where does the sign of Cancer sit in your chart, dear ones? What house is occupied by it? How is Jupiter ending a 12-13 year cycle, starting a 12-13 year cycle? For those of you who are old enough, and this is one of the joys of getting older, is that think back to 12-13 years when Jupiter was in Cancer last. What was he doing then? What is the nature of a Jupiter transit through your houses? through the house occupied by Cancer. How is that showing up again? Ending a 12-13-year cycle, starting a 12-13-year cycle. And how is that ending a new beginning going to contribute to the healing in Aries that Chiron is asking us to do, that I talked about at the beginning of this video, and Saturn coming in to ask us to act with accountability and responsibly in the Pisces part of the chart, so that we can clean up energy leaks that have been growing ever since 2012 and may have reached a crisis point in 2016 and 17 in the Pisces part of the chart. What role is Jupiter ending a 12-13-year cycle, starting a 12-13-year cycle in the Cancer part of the chart? How does that create some harmony or some flow or support to Saturn being in Pisces from September 1st to the middle of February, saying, all right, let's finish up the cleanup that I've been doing in the Pisces part of the chart since March 23. Some of you, when I talk like this, might feel frustrated but I don't like to give glib interpretations of aspects. We have to figure out for our own charts. Now, if I'm talking to you individually, we can have this conversation. I can explain the archetypal energy and we can work together to figure it out. And I'm not saying this to make a sales pitch. I'm not. What I'm telling you is, in the absence of that, you've got to do it for yourself when you look at aspects. And it is in that work that you can actually start the process of really making the most of tapping into the potential that these aspects create as they are occurring in your chart and in your life. 3 ways to engage with me: the free content I put out on this website, the membership part of the channel, $6.99 a month, where I put rising signs specific videos. You can view them for your sun and your moon, but they're meant for your rising signs. And my email address is in the description box below, including information on memberships. If you want a personal reading, you can email me there and I can get you the relevant information. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and you find my content useful. When you subscribe, there's a bell icon. Click the wiggly bell on top and you will be notified whenever I do new videos. You can contribute to this channel for free by liking the video, commenting on it. Gives it greater circulation. You can hype this video if you find it useful. I think that is also helping bring some circulation in. And you can certainly also contribute to this channel monetarily by using the thanks button underneath this video or by donating to the channel, and that information is in the description box below. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. I think the next week content is going to focus on the weekly overview for next week now, and then I do want to do that video to wrap up the eclipses and to process them. In the meantime, based on what I shared, by all means over the next 4 or 5 days, try and put your attention into this full moon energy and try and see what it is telling you, how it is aspecting your natal chart, and what it brings to the table as you do all this work in the Libra part of the chart with all these planets transiting Libra, so that you can factor in what you need to when it comes time to actually taking new moon energy after October the 21st in the Libra part of the chart. Now, when I say that, you don't have to wait to take action in the Libra part of the chart till October 21st. If something's coming up in the Libra part of the chart and you need to respond to it or take care of it, take care of it. What I'm talking about is a very specific set of tasks and actions and items that build on Mars's transit, Mercury's transit, the Aries full moon, the Sun's transit, and Venus coming in. And if it's feeling a little bit like, with all this, I can make sense of these transits, but I'm unclear, nothing is manifesting in the Libra part of the chart. First and foremost, manifestations occur more with full moons than with new moons. New moons are a time to start to take aligned action to bring the part of the chart where the new moon is occurring into alignment with what you value and where you want things to be. What's the next right step? What's the next step? What's the next step? And the universe often brings you opportunities you can respond to. Okay, feel free to leave a comment. I hope you find this useful, something to think about. Take care.